Welcome to Life and Liberty Radio with David Householder. I'm Josh Jose, and together, you and I are taking another step toward freedom, both spiritual and political. So get comfortable, breathe in, and ignite your imagination. Envision a society that is spiritually deep and truly free. It's easy if you try.
I cheated on a test in the 3rd grade. My teacher accepted the lie I told her about it. It was a spelling test, and there were 10 questions. 10 words. Seemed doable enough. But there was one word that was particularly tricky. And so I studied that word extra hard above all the words. I was determined that I would get 10 out of 10 on the spelling test. When it came time for the day of the spelling test, I felt prepared because I had studied hard and I knew that one extra tricky word. The test came and went, and I was sure I had aced it. So we traded papers. It was time to grade the papers after we finished our work. We traded the papers, and even as the teacher read off the answers, when she got to that one particular question, and she said how it was spelled, as I was grading the other students' paper, I knew that I had gotten that one right. And so I was confident that I had done it correctly. So imagine my surprise when I got my paper back from the other student and I had only gotten 9 out of 10. I had missed an answer. Then imagine my surprise when I looked and saw that the one I had missed was the one I was most certain I had gotten correct because I had studied so hard. So then I thought, well, of course I got it right, but this student is messing with me or something, or he was wrong in how he graded it. And so it couldn't be that I actually got it wrong. Except that I had. I looked at my paper. I looked at my mistake. I looked at how he graded it, and he had graded it fairly. I had gotten it wrong. But I still felt like I knew what I should have done, and I knew that I knew the right answer in my head, and so it wasn't fair that I had to suffer a 9 out of 10 for work that I knew how to have done perfectly. And so I changed my answer. I got out my pencil, use the eraser end, and I erased the wrong answer. I erased my mistake, and I changed it to be correct. Then, of course, I raised my hand. Teacher, he graded it wrong. The student looks over. No, I didn't. You changed your answer. We started bickering. The teacher came over to resolve the dispute. She took my word over his, and she changed my grade to a 10 out of 10. So there. I was vindicated. I knew the right answer, and I got my 10 out of 10 that I was looking for. That could have been the end of it. Except for this thing that we know of as conscience. I knew that I had done the wrong thing. I knew that the other student had graded it fairly. I knew that I didn't deserve a 10 out of 10. And the longer I sat in my seat during silent work time, the worse I felt. And I felt worse and worse and worse about what I had done. And I finally knew what I had to do, is I needed to tell the teacher the truth about what I had done. So I composed myself and I approached the teacher's desk. Teacher, can I talk to you? She could tell I was upset. Let's go to the hall, which was very gracious of her. So in the hall, I broke down. teacher, I got that wrong on the spelling test, and I told you I got it right, and I changed my answer, and I got it wrong, but I changed it, and I didn't get right, and I changed my answer, and I got it wrong, and I'm so sorry. And I was a total mess of gasping and tears. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I looked at the teacher, wondering what she would say. And she said, I know. And those words rang in my mind. I know. But if you knew, then why? And she interrupted me. I know what you did. I know that you changed your answer. But I also knew that you would do the right thing. Whew, I don't know how she knew I would do that, because I didn't know I was capable of that. But then the next question that was burning on my mind, because here I was, I had cheated on the test. I had wanted the 10 out of 10. I earned a 9 out of 10. I changed my answer. And so now at this point, I knew the consequence for cheating was that I deserved a 0 on the test. And so I had to ask. I had to know. I needed to hear the judgment pronounced. I needed to hear my 0. I just needed to hear her say it. So I asked, So what's going to happen with my grade? And she calmly answered, You're going to get the grade that you earned. Well, I knew what that meant. Of course that meant that she was going to change the grade to a 0, because that's what cheaters get. But she explained, You're going to get the grade that you earned originally. I'll take off the point that you gave yourself, and your score will return to how it was originally graded, as a 9 out of 10. And also, I'm going to need you to apologize to the student who graded your paper. This was completely unexpected. I knew I had earned a 0 for cheating. She kept her word. She readjusted my grade. I got the 9 out of 10 that I actually earned. I apologized to the other student who had graded my paper. Of course, he was indignant. He was more annoyed that I actually thought I had pulled the wool over anybody's eyes than he was upset. But everything went back to normal. And that would have been the end of it. Except I have never forgotten the compassion and understanding that I received from my 3rd grade teacher. I remember how she knew I had cheated. How did she know? I remember that she gave me the time and space to do the right thing. How could she have been so sure that I would? And I think about how she didn't give me the grade that I thought I deserved, but the grade that reflected the truth about my performance. And when I think about that story, I can't help but wonder if maybe the way my teacher approached that situation is something like how God deals with us. We often try so hard to be perfect, to make the grade, even to outdo others. And when we fail at perfection, we desperately try to cover our mistakes, as if God didn't already know what we had done. But even though God knows the truth about our mistakes, and our cover-ups, God is not glaring down at us. No, God also knows the good in us. And God is patient for us to trust in his love for us. He gives us lots of chances to work things out with him. And when we do talk with him and tell him what's going on, he doesn't just give us a bunch of lectures and should-haves. No, God listens and cares. God encourages and supports us. God acknowledges our mistakes, of course, but he also calls us to reconciliation with him and with others in love. What if what God really wants are hearts that care about what God cares about? And if there is one subject that God seems to major in, it's his creation and his created people. God knows we may not ace every test at caring for his world and his people, but God loves for us to be eager to try. And if we forget, we have Jesus to remind us, to support us, and to whisper the better way. So if God is maybe more worried about the subject than the grade, then may we absorb all knowledge of God's amazing love.
Well, that's all for today on Life and Liberty Radio. Thanks so much for sharing this part of your spiritual journey with me. Now, the views on this program are not necessarily those of my advertisers, sponsors, places I work or do business with. They're purely my own, but I'm sharing them with you, so share your ideas with me. Write me on Twitter at Liberty House, LIBERTYHOUS, no E. Until next time, let's continue dreaming and working for a free and spiritually grounded society.